A man fights through an unfolding apocalypse in a desperate attempt to return to his pregnant wife, who is thousands of kilometers away. The narrative begins with Samantha and her spouse, Will, attending an ultrasound for their unborn child. Subsequently, they step outside to discuss Will's plan to seek permission from Samantha's father for marriage. Samantha advises him not to bring up a sensitive topic and bids him farewell with a kiss. Will promptly proceeds to a hotel to meet Samantha's parents. At the hotel, Tom, the prospective father-in-law, shares a drink with Will, while Paula, Tom's wife, prepares dinner. Despite their efforts, the atmosphere remains tense. During dinner, Tom expresses concern about Will and Samantha considering buying a place together. He insists on a guarantee from Will that, in case of a breakup, he won't claim any financial contributions made to assist their daughter. Tom continues to criticize and pressure Will despite Paula's attempts to intervene. Frustrated, Will confronts Tom and leaves to prevent further escalation. The following morning, Samantha calls Will, discovering he got drunk and missed his flight. She reminds him of his flight and learns he couldn't ask her parents for permission to marry. Concerned, Samantha expresses fear, but the call is abruptly cut. Unable to reconnect, Will rushes to the airport. Upon arrival, Will finds his flight delayed and all flights canceled. News reports seismic events off the Southern Californian coast, with lost contact from their studio. Determined, Will leaves the airport, paying $200 for a ride back to the city. Despite numerous attempts, he fails to reach Samantha. Returning to his future in-laws, he explains the situation. As they pack, they witness fighter planes leaving the city. Tom prepares weapons, deciding to drive to Seattle to find his daughter. Will joins him while Paula heads to their son's house. The city is chaotic with congested streets, no cell phone signals, and offline GPS. Panic buying ensues for food, fuel, and essentials. While Will fills the car, Tom buys supplies at a store. Gangsters attempt extortion, but Tom, an ex-military, brandishes his gun, thwarting them. On the road, Will confronts Tom about the undisclosed firearm, and Tom justifies it as a necessary precaution. At some point, a soldier, together with his comrades, stops them because they won't allow anyone onto the highway. However, Tom reasons his way and eventually convinces the soldier, who allows him to pass. They continue to drive and notice trains laden with army equipment also heading west. As they drive through the night, they are stopped by a police car. Will gets out to speak to them, but Tom realizes that it is not a real cop. He reverses into the car and they escape. The police car rams them as Tom explains to Will how to shoot the gun. Eventually, they manage to lose him. They continue onwards, but swerve to avoid hitting some deer and crash off the side of the road. The police car arrives, and the man opens the door, demanding that Will gets out, but Tom hits him over the head. Tom thinks that he may have broken his ribs in the crash. They use the police car to tow Tom's car to a garage. The following day, they arrive at a trailer park. Everyone eyes their arrival suspiciously. They meet a kid at the garage called Ricky who can fix the car. They hear voices on the radio asking for help. Tom has a big bruise on his ribs. Ricky explains the problem with the car but says that it could break again. Tom offers to pay her extra to come with them, but she initially refuses. Tom tries to convince her to help him, so she says that she will do it for $2,000. They load the car up with essential repair equipment, and then they all drive off. That night, Will notices someone behind them. Tom instructs him to pull over and turn off the lights. As the car passes them, he follows using their lights as a guide. Ricky hands Will a compass and shows him that the needle is spinning. Suddenly, a car drives toward them on the wrong side of the road and is driven off into a ditch. They stop to check, and they find that a woman is dead and the man is dying. Tom tells them to return to the car, but Ricky is still at the accident site. As they drive past, they see that someone else has stopped. They pick up Ricky and drive away. Later, when they stop for fuel, Will and Ricky talk. They look at the clouds and say that they have never seen anything like that before. Lightning strikes a power pylon, and it starts to pour with rain. They drive for a while through the storm, but eventually park the car under a bridge for refuge. The next day, the storm has passed, and they drive onwards. They get a radio signal which tells them that there is still no cell signal or internet. Will insists on stopping at his friend's on the way to get the car checked over. On their way, they are stopped by a roadblock. The sheriff is suspicious but lets them through after Will explains. The radio continues to broadcast, speculating if this is an attack by the Chinese or North Koreans. Will arrives at his friend's house and introduces Meg. She hasn't heard from her husband, Adam, for a few days. He was in San Francisco when all this happened. Will showers while Tom fills up water bottles. Meg is really upset that they know nothing. Will tries to reassure her that everything will be okay before they leave again. As they drive on, they can see a crashed military jet. Ricky speculates that it may have been shot down. They arrive at an abandoned water park, and Ricky immediately jumps in for a swim. The water is really hot, and they laugh at her. A helicopter flies overhead. Ricky checks the surrounding cars for fuel and parts while Tom and Will look for food and water. Tom tries to pick up 2 gas containers but struggles because of his broken ribs. That night while driving, Will hears a buzzing and they check their phones. Tom received a 2-day-old voicemail from Samantha saying that she loves him. In the distance, they can see fires and then spot crowds of people walking towards them on foot. Ricky says that they should turn back, but Will says that this is the only way over the pass. A woman stops them saying that she has a flat tire. They try to help, but then a man ambushes them and tries to steal their gas. He demands that Ricky fill their car, and then he steals the rest of the fuel. They give chase to try to retrieve it. Ricky is given the gun and shoots the tire, which flips the car off the road. They take back the gas, but the man is trapped inside the car and is holding the containers. They struggle to take them from him, and as they leave, the car blows up. Soon after, Ricky insists that they pull over. She is upset because she feels responsible for his death. She regrets coming with them and walks away. Tom tells her to remember that she saved their lives. The following day, they are still parked up. Will calls for Ricky, but there is no answer. He wakes Tom and tells him that she has taken her stuff and gone. They eventually drive off without her. Tom continues coughing. They stop when they notice that a train has stopped in front of them after being hit by something. Will goes to investigate while Tom tries to give himself some medical treatment. He is struggling and says that his lung has collapsed. Will helps him and then drives off while Tom sits in the back. Tom tells Will about how strict his father was, but says that he was still a good man. Will tells him that he loves his daughter, and Tom makes him promise that he'll always keep her safe. Will promises, and then tells him that Samantha is pregnant. Tom already knew, as Samantha called them after the dinner and informed them. As they bond for the first time, Tom calls him a good man and says that he will be a good father. As night falls, they approach a town and stop to look for help. Will spots lots of abandoned cars on a bridge before they are stopped by a group of people with guns and motorbikes. Will asks for help for Tom, and they tell him to bring the car forward. Instead, they reverse and are chased by the bikes. He manages to knock the bikes down, but then they are sealed in by 2 trucks. He drives toward one of them as Tom shoots, and he manages to get past. However, the strain is too much, and Tom dies on the back seat. Will continues onward, but the car breaks down. Will is angry and decides to set the car alight with Tom inside. He carries on by foot and tries to hitchhike. A man stops, gun in hand, and offers to take him as far as he can, but he confiscates his gun as he has family in the truck. The man turns on the radio, but there is nothing. The man explains that no one knows what has happened, but people are being told to go to Canada, something about the air. Will directs them to his dad's house, but there is no one there. He tells the family to rest and eat. He says that they can stay there and take what they need, including the car in the garage, but he wants to take the truck. The man agrees. Will leaves early the following day. In the distance, he can see a devastated city. He passes a sign that says 30 miles to Seattle. Ash particles are falling from the sky, and he obtains a gas mask from a fire engine. He carries on and exits his vehicle, gun in hand. He climbs a ladder up the side of a building and enters the apartment that he shares with Samantha. It has been half destroyed, but he finds a message written on the wall by Samantha telling him where to find her. He drives to that address immediately, but is shot at by their neighbor Jeremiah. Samantha runs out, immediately telling him to stop firing. Will and Samantha embrace. Later, he tells her that her father is dead and that he wouldn't have made it without him. Later, Will wakes to a rumbling sound. He gets up to investigate. Outside, he can see the northern lights and then sees Samantha sat at a campfire with Jeremiah. They explain to Will what happened in Seattle. Jeremiah believes that it wasn't an earthquake. He believes that it was a synchronized event. A nuclear bomb was detonated and then a virus took down the grid before anyone knew what happened. Will doesn't believe this, and later he checks to make sure that Samantha doesn't either. In the night, Will goes downstairs and spots Jeremiah in his truck. The next morning, Will asks him what he was doing. He says that he saw two kids and thought that maybe they stole something from his truck. Will asks where they are now, and he takes him into the woods to show him. As some deer run by, Jeremiah draws his gun. Will tells him that they are going to leave to go north and asks if he wants Tia10 come with them. Jeremiah says that Samantha wants to stay. Will says that he doesn't see any kids, and suddenly Jeremiah turns to shoot at him. However, Will manages to shoot him first. There is a rumbling, and Will runs back to get Samantha. They drive off in the truck as there is a huge explosion behind them. They speed away as the dust cloud approaches. He tells her that this will end and everything is going to be okay. He continues driving, and the dust cloud dissipates behind them.